Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a baby burp cloth out of this really cute fabric right here. So the things you'll need is a fabric design, terry cloth, a form of straight edge, which they have smaller ones than these, you can get those at Joann's, something to cut on. This is a seam ripper, bobbins, circular knife. I'm not sure the proper name for that. There are scissors, pins, a pin cushion, or you can use these things. I really like these, less poking. And a sewing machine, of course. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is take your fabric, you can do the front or the back, whichever one you want, and cut it. You have to cut them 8 inches wide by 16 inches long. This allows for you to have a little more than 1/4 inch of a seam afterwards. Then you always want to make sure to cut off this band part, because if you measure that in, it'll end up on your burp cloth, so you don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is follow my grids I have on this ruler and mark 8 inches wide. And I'm just marking it with a regular pencil. You can use a fabric pencil if you want, but my fabric pencil is broken. And then to make the fabric 16 inches long, I'm going to rotate my cutting pad here. And this just helps when you use this to cut, not to cut your table or whatever you're working on. Okay, and this part's kind of important. You want to make sure that the edge of your fabric is lined up with a straight edge so that you don't end up cutting your fabric crooked. And then all I've done is lined up my ruler with my mark I made right here. And I'm going to take my cutter here, make sure to take it off the safety. And you always want to cut away from yourself. And also put a lot of pressure down when you're cutting, and then you'll get a clean cut like that. So now that I have an easier piece to work with, so I've cut my 8-inch width minus this, I have to cut this off. Now it'll be easier to cut it 16 inches long. So all I'm gonna do is line up the corners with a corner, and then make sure it's flat. Take my ruler here, and 16 inches is right here. I'm gonna mark it, and then I'm going to cut across. It's also good to have one of these because you can use these measuring points as reference to make a straight edge, so you can have a 90-degree angle to reference. And then again, put a lot of pressure and cut away from yourself. See? Clear cut. Clean cut. Okay, now the process that I just did for this fabric. So I'm going to do the exact same process to this fabric, and then I'll be right back. Okay, now that you have your 2 pieces cut the exact same length, what you want to do is turn them into each other, because you're now going to sew them together, and you're just going to make sure it's straight and even. And then you can do one of 2 things. You can use the pins if you'd like, or you can use the little clips. I'm going to use the pins today. And what you do is you just pin the two pieces together like so. So you're gonna pin the two layers together. So you just put one pin in, go through, and this is just to keep the fabric like taut and in line, so it doesn't move or wiggle and you'll end up with wrinkles. And you want to do this probably every inch around the entire thing so that you can get it ready to put on the sewing machine. So I'm just going to do that right now. Okay, so now that I have all of my edges pinned, I put the fabric, the terry cloth and the regular cloth together, and they're under the presser foot. And the presser foot, I know from the center of the needle out to the edge is 1/4 inch. So that's the seam I want to do. So I'm going to keep the edge of my fabric lined up with the edge of my presser foot and go around and start sewing. And as you come up to one of your pins that you have in your fabric, you just want to pull it out before it goes through the presser foot and the needle, because it'll mess up your sewing machine. And I just have my little tomato thing that I poke them in as I go. Once you've got to the edge of your fabric, the bottom part, you want to make sure that your needle is down in the fabric. You can lift the presser foot with this little lever right here, or if your sewing machine has the lever somewhere else, and you can rotate your fabric so that you can start doing the bottom edge. And if you put your presser foot back down, it pinches it back into place, and then you can continue on your way. Okay, now that you've gotten to your final corner, you're going to want to flip your project inside out so that the bright side can be the side that's showing. So you only want to sew about 1/4 of the way in on your last side so that you have somewhere to turn the fabric inside out from. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just putting my presser foot back down. Okay, so it's about 1/4 of the way. Going to cut the threads here. And what you're going to want to do, see, I left myself a hole. Here's the hole. You're going to want to turn it in on itself. And kind of poke out use your finger to poke out the corners so that you get a nice like rounded edge. See? It's really nice. And just keep pulling it apart. And like I've said in other videos too, I have a 3-month-old baby, and the terry cloth seems to be the most absorbent thing. Minky is really soft, but it doesn't absorb anything, and you basically have to change burp cloths every feeding, so that gets annoying after a while. See, so now I've turned my whole project the correct way. There's what the seam looks like. There's the terry cloth in the back. There's the little rounded corners. And what you do now with this area that has the hole, you have to fold the project in on itself to match the rest of your project. And what you're going to do in this area, well, you could do one of two things. You can either hand stitch in between the hole so that you can't see that inner stitching like you can't see anywhere else, or what you can do is your finishing stitch, and it'll keep it locked together as well as keeping the rest of it together. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. and I'll just start on this side. So you're going to want to do the same thing you did before, pinning. Just want to make sure that it's folded in nicely and that you have enough room to, when you sew, to grip both fabrics so that you don't get anything missing, or if you wash it and then it'll pop out later, you don't want to do that. Just keep going around with your pins. See, so this area was my area that I had left open. So now with the finishing stitch, it's going to be closed. So I'm going to go around and pin a couple of the areas so that I don't get wrinkles and so it stays straight. So cute. And then I'll be right back. Okay, now that I have my areas that I wanted pinned, what I'm going to do is start sewing again. And I'm going to start a little bit on the inside of the fabric so it doesn't go from the edge in. And I'm also going to sew a little smaller than 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to keep my fabric inside my presser foot instead of on the outside or right up against it, so that it has a little less of a seam. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, and I didn't say on the last part, but you're going to want to lock your last stitch in. So how you do that is you have to go forward and then backward with your sewing machine. So you're going to do a couple stitches forward, like so. And then there's normally a button on your machine, or like mine has a lever. So I'm going to pull my lever down and then make it go backwards and then go forwards again. And that should be strong enough to lock it into place. I could lift my presser foot. Oh, where did I put my scissor? Oh, here it is. And you're gonna want to cut the excess ribbon off, or not ribbon, thread. Okay, so I'm just using my little scissors to cut off the little excess pieces of thread here where you locked your stitch. There you go. And then I always keep, I don't know if I said this earlier, I always keep a pin kind of in the middle of your project to keep it, just right here, right there, to keep it all together and flat and nice. So here's the final project. I think it turned out super cute. The back is the terry cloth. There's your little seam line right there. And terry cloth, like I said, is super absorbent. It's really good for burp cloths. So I hope this tutorial is easy to follow. If you would like to purchase one, I do sell these on my Etsy store. I'll link that down below. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate you guys, and I will see you later. Bye!